The honeymoon phase with Mark wasn't all sunshine and roses. One evening, while he was in the shower, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. A deep, menacing voice crackled through the receiver. "You think you've won, don't you? But this game is far from over." Panic tightened my throat. Who could it be? Was it Tiffany seeking revenge of her own? Or maybe someone more sinister? Someone from Mark's past, catching up to him. My heart hammered against my ribs as I raced to find Mark. The idyllic honeymoon suite suddenly feeling like a gilded cage. The sting of betrayal was a familiar ache. It started all those years ago at the tender age of 7 when my world shattered. Dad left Mom for Karen, a pretty woman with a smile that never reached her eyes. The divorce that followed was a whirlwind of accusations, tears, and ultimatums. Dad painted Mom as the villain, claiming she'd walked out. That version stuck, a festering wound that colored my perception of her for years. Living with Dad and Karen meant living in the shadow of Tiffany, my half-sister. Tiffany was my polar opposite, vivacious, beautiful, and the apple of Dad's eye. I buried myself in books, finding solace in the world of academics. My acceptance into a prestigious university was a bittersweet victory. My joy was tinged with the knowledge that Tiffany, with her mediocre grades, would likely end up at some local party school. Then there was Max. He was everything I wanted: funny, intelligent, and kind. We were a picture-perfect couple. At least that's what I thought. Until one rainy afternoon, while rushing home from an exam, I saw them. Max, entangled with Tiffany, in a secluded corner of the local coffee shop, their faces plastered with a sickening mixture of lust and laughter. The world spun. My perfect life unraveled at the seams. The familiar ache of betrayal intensified, a bitter cocktail of anger and humiliation. I confronted them both, my voice trembling with fury. Max apologized profusely, a meaningless string of words drowned out by the roar of my emotions. Tiffany, on the other hand, remained smug, a twisted sense of triumph in her eyes. Blinded by rage, I craved revenge. Tiffany was marrying some wealthy businessman, a smug replica of Dad. Her perfect day, fueled by years of my silent resentment, became my target. But revenge felt hollow, a fleeting satisfaction. I wanted something more. Enter Mark, Tiffany's ex-boyfriend. Tall, athletic, and with a mischievous glint in his eyes, he was the perfect pawn. Initially, it was a game. I started sending him playful texts, rekindling a connection long severed. He responded eagerly, his past affection rekindled. I invited him to a tennis match, a sport I knew nothing about. Watching him dominate on the court, his sweat glistening under the afternoon sun, stirred something unexpected within me. After the match, as he entered the locker room for a shower, a reckless boldness overtook me. Ignoring the pounding of my heart, I crept in. The steamy air carried the scent of soap and exertion. Mark stood half naked, a towel precariously covering his lower body. Our eyes met, surprise morphing into a flicker of desire. Resistance was futile. We collided in a whirlwind of heated touches and fervent kisses. His touch was electric, igniting a passion I never knew existed. Later, on his plush bed, we explored each other with an urgency fueled by stolen moments. His hands danced across my skin, sending shivers down my spine. His lips followed, trailing a path of fire to my secret places. My inhibitions crumbled under the weight of his need. We moved in a frantic ballet, surrendering to a raw, primal desire. As we climaxed, a wave of euphoria washed over me, an unexpected pleasure intertwined with the thrill of forbidden fruit. The wedding day arrived. I donned a crimson dress, the bold color a stark contrast to the traditional whites and pastels. Mark, by my side, looked dapper and slightly nervous. In the grand hall, whispers followed us like shadows. My presence with Mark was a scandal brewing. As the ceremony reached its climax, I seized my chance. With a tremor in my hand, I grabbed the microphone. The room fell silent. "Excuse me," my voice rang out. "I have something to say." My gaze landed on the bewildered bride, then on the groom, his face contorted in a mask of fury. "This wedding is a sham," I continued, my voice gaining strength. "The groom, unfortunately, has a history of infidelity. Ask Mark here." Pandemonium erupted. Accusations flew like daggers. Tiffany, her carefully constructed facade crumbling, resembled a cornered cat. The groom's family, outraged and embarrassed, stormed out. The wedding was called off and the dream was shattered by a single act of rebellion. In the aftermath, a surprising truth came to light. Mom, after the bitter divorce, had fought tooth and nail for custody. But Dad, fueled by manipulation and lies, had swayed the court. He had convinced everyone that she was the one who walked out. Guilt gnawed at him as the truth unraveled, leading him to a tearful confession. Reconnecting with Mom was a revelation. The hurt and anger I'd held onto for so long began to melt away. I discovered a warm, loving woman with a new family, a kind stepfather, and 2 younger siblings, a mischievous boy and a shy girl with eyes that mirrored mine. It was overwhelming, this sudden expansion of my world. Yet, amidst the initial awkwardness, there was a sense of belonging I hadn't realized I craved. Mark's presence became a constant source of support and surprise. He confessed that my audacity at the wedding had initially shocked him, but then he'd understood. My revenge plot had morphed into something deeper, a connection forged in the heat of transgression. He was everything Max wasn't: honest, bold, and surprisingly supportive of my need for reconciliation with my mother. News of my relationship with Mark, of course, didn't sit well with Dad and Karen. Dad saw it as a blatant act of defiance, a continuation of the revenge narrative he'd constructed. Karen, ever the picture of perfect manners, masked her disapproval with thinly veiled digs. Their negativity, however, only served to strengthen our bond. Mark, unfazed by their disapproval, thrived on his new job as the boss of Tiffany's husband. It was a delicious irony, watching the smug businessman squirm under Mark's sharp critiques. Life didn't stop with the wedding debacle. I graduated with honors, launching myself into a demanding career in finance. Mark, with his competitive spirit, excelled in his new position, quietly becoming a thorn in the side of Tiffany's cheating ex. We carved out our own happiness, a quiet defiance against the negativity surrounding us. 2 years later, Mark, with a nervous air and a ring sparkling in his hand, proposed on the same tennis court where it all began. The memory of that stolen moment ignited a blush on my cheeks. "Yes," I said, tears welling in my eyes. 1,000 times yes.